The problem is the law, not the plan. The problem is the law, not the plan. Advocating medicinal marijuana for autism. Free the weed for those in need. Free the weed for those in need. If you are unhappy with the status quo, come stand on these steps with us. Ballot initiative. They must enact law for us to change drug law in Texas. 77% of Texans believe in some form of legal marijuana. Register to vote. It's Texas' only hope. 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 Let's tell them one last time as I see a few more pot leaves come and join our crowd. Take your picture.
We got seniors represented here. Dolan, we're waiting for you. We need a group picture.
I see international. I see safer alternatives. Give us our medicine. All come forward. Stand and be a part of history. What do we want? Legalization. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Legalization. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Legalization. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Legalization. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Legalization. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Legalization. When do we want it? Now. I can't hear you. What do we want? Legalization. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Legalization. When do we want it? Now.
please get a water and get yourself ready for some very interesting, informative, and motivational speakers. So you guys have to remember what we're doing here. This is exciting, and we want people to know we're out here, but this is the preparation. This is not the work. The work happens when we get excited, and we get motivated, and we get educated. So from here, this is your springboard. Where are you going to go from here? Who are you going to educate, and who are you going to bring in, and who are you going to give their own reason to be here next year and make sure this happens? So I appreciate everybody coming. My name is Cheyenne Weldon. I am the Executive Director of TXNORML. Thank you. Thank you all for being a part of this. This is my 5th rally. I've only been involved for about 5 years, and this is very different from 2009 when I first came to my first rally, and I was out there with you guys. So I don't have any professional training. I'm just one of you guys that just really couldn't leave this alone. So I encourage you all to realize this is something we just cannot leave alone. And if everybody does that to whatever degree they can, this will be done a lot sooner. It's been a busy, exciting 5 years, but you know, it hasn't always been like this. You guys at least all know about it. We'll be at Flamingo's Cantina tonight, and it is 21 and up, $5 cover, so that everybody knows. Flamingo Cantina, that's where we're going to be, so look for TXNORML. If you don't have a shirt or some kind of conversation piece, we'll be there and we can give you something to make people spark a conversation. We're expecting to see some big changes in Texas in the next 3 to 5 years, and that is not very long. Before any of you start and say that's too long, that is not very long. This has been going on for a long time. The federal government changed laws 70 years ago, over 70 years ago, but Texas, in the cities, we were arresting people long before that. We've been arresting people in Texas, in cities like El Paso, for almost a century. Basically this year, a century. So it's Texas that's going to make a big impact. And we did, even in the 70s. When cannabis was said to be like heroin, when the Controlled Substances Act was put into place, TXNORML was formed, and TXNORML succeeded in helping to pass laws that lessen penalties. That was the big thing that I said, I guess. Sorry, I don't know anything about sound, but sorry. But that lessened some harms, and some people today are better off as a result of that work that they did. Currently, so that's one of the speakers you guys can hear about. Cheer, you'll hear us in a minute. But currently, and over the past 20 years, advocates just like us have been successful in getting medical laws, in getting laws passed in states. I realize it's not Texas, but we are at a new forefront now. So we have other work to do, but we have a patient that represents the work that has been being done, it is being done, to provide, not to decide that we're not only not going to harm some people, we're also going to provide a benefit to some people. And that is success again. But I don't think we're going to be happy that somebody comes up with a list that says these people are sick enough, the ones that meet this list, they're sick enough that we're not going to harm them, that they're allowed to benefit. It's not enough that some people are now better off because the penalties are lowered, and some people will be better off if we get medical laws. That's not enough. We all want more of both of those things, don't we? We want less harms to more people, and we want more benefits for more people. I think that's something we can all agree on. We want more freedoms of a plant, we want more freedoms of a new industry, and we want more freedom of the people that are involved with either one of them. And I think everybody here represents some category of that, even if it's just a person that you know, even if it's something you heard about. You know one part of that you feel strongly about, and every step brings us closer to what we want to do. Be a part, please, of achieving those freedoms, because when Texas does it, I'm telling you, it's going to be a big impact. It's a big impact now when any state does anything. But in Texas, like Jax said, our deputy director that led you guys here, thank you, Jax, we need the whole state. We can't do this by collecting signatures. If we could do this by collecting signatures, you and I would meet here, and that's what we would go do, because I would not need to sit up here and do this other than to get you all here, and we would go collect signatures. But we can't do it that way. And if what you want is to win, then you have to know the rules of the game. You may not like the game, but if what you want is to win, you have to know how. And how we do it in Texas is how about half the other states in the country are going to do it, and that's through the people that work in this building, right here. And who controls who goes in there? You do. So you have to do the work. It's not as easy as writing your name on a piece of paper. I wish it was, but it's not. So you have to be willing to do the work, and it can't be just about this. You have to show those people that you care about more than just this. Because when you do, you can also then show them that this actually affects a lot of other things that they care about. But we've got to be willing to open our eyes to that, and we need every demographic represented. If there's a type of person that you can say, that group of people rides bicycles, that group of people wears black shirts, it doesn't matter. Whatever type of group of people, we need those people represented because we need the people in there to resonate with something that they're hearing, with somebody that they're hearing from. And they're people just like you. Most of them have other jobs the rest of the year. But all together, we can reach more people in this building and outside of this building with our many various reasons why this failed policy of prohibition should end again. Didn't work before, right? Doesn't work. We've been arresting people for a century and it has not worked. And I'd like to introduce you to somebody that helped some of the first changes ever in Texas. Because if you think it's bad now, it used to be a lot worse. The co-founder of TXNORML, Bill Norton, we met last year, and I'm telling you, I sat down with him and I can't wait to look at it more, but some of his quotes from 40 years ago are still exactly on point with what we want and what we're doing now and the evidence that we have. So it's time we all get together for our various reasons and show them that we want one thing. We might want it for different reasons, but we want one thing. We want freedom. Bill Norton, tell us how you did it in the 70s.
Hey guys, can you hear me? All right. Now I want to start with a quick poll. How many people here have heard of Harry Anslinger? All right, that's very good. Now, I don't have time to get into Harry Anslinger, but that's it. All right, like that. How's this? It's better? All right. I don't have time to get into Harry Anslinger now, but he's up with me at Flamingo Cantina. I'll tell you all about it and why this is so important. So today what I want to do is talk to you about the modern era of marijuana prohibition. And I'm defining that as beginning in the mid to late 60s and going on until today. To give you just some history and background on this. To put things in perspective, at the beginning of this era, simple possession of any amount of marijuana was a felony, 2 to life. And that life sentence was not just some idle threat. There were 13 people at one time serving life sentences in Texas prisons here. So that's where we started. But what I want to do is take you guys back in time and place to the beginning of this and take you back to Marlin, Texas, 1968. Marlin is a little town southeast of Waco, very conservative, real typical small Texas town. And in 1968, I was a senior in high school there, and I'd recently been elected the outstanding citizen of my senior class. And in 1968, the world was changing. Everything was happening. There was a war in Vietnam, civil rights, coming out of assassinations, a lot of really scary stuff. But one thing that was happening was this thing called marijuana, which I thought was very intriguing. And so did the school administrators. And they, as the school administrators wanted to keep us on the straight path. So they marched us into the auditorium one day and told us they're going to have an open and honest discussion about drugs and marijuana, which meant a short lecture followed by film. And I don't remember the name of the film. But I do remember one scene. In this scene, there was a scientist, white lab, holding a rat in one hand, and had a hypodermic needle in the other. And the announcer said that the syringe was filled with marijuana oil that had been extracted from the seed of the marijuana plant because, as we all know, the seed is the most potent part of the plant. Right? So he gets this needle and he sticks it into the rat, and the rat freaks out. That was very good. Human speaks rat. And the voiceover says, notice how the rat immediately becomes agitated. Now, I was a pretty naive kid back then, and I couldn't believe what figures of authority told me, but even I didn't believe that the rat's reaction had anything to do with the marijuana oil. And I felt that if some giant rat had come down and shoved a steel spike in that research belly, that agitation would not begin to describe. So, probably the same changed that much. I think if anything, that just made me more curious about marijuana. And that was sort of considered utility. Trying to keep people smoking pot by passing draconian laws and by trying to scare people away by telling lies because I think everybody sees it. So, okay. So, I want to put these right together. Is this any better? Yeah, really. Come on, come on up.
It's not that hot.
So, all right, is this any better? I'm right in the mic. I've got them both together. I'm going to stay. I'm going to not move from this position yet. All right. So, after all this, I'm very curious. Unfortunately, there was no marijuana to be had in Boston, Texas. It's not among my circle of friends. So, in June, I went to the University of Texas, started summer school here. And within a couple of weeks, I met a couple of kids from the Valley. They had plenty of marijuana, and they were happy to share it with me. So, within 2 weeks, I'd gone from being the outstanding citizen of my senior class to committing my first of a series of felonies and feeling not one bit of moral turpitude or guilt or shame about it. So, and as the 60s rolled in, there was definitely a change of attitude amongst people, mainly because the wrong people were getting arrested. Before, it was just migrant workers down in the valley and other minorities, but now it was the neighborhood kids. And sometimes your kid. So, the Texas legislature keeps every other year on this. In 1971, the legislature was back to convene, and there was definitely a sense that something had to happen. There were 6 marijuana bills offered in that session, ranging from minor misdemeanors to one that called for the death penalty for 5 grand. Oh, back. So, back to the history. We were in the 1971 legislative session. 6 bills had been offered. The only one to get through committee was one by Raul LaGuardia from down in the valley. And it was, it had a lot of support. It was basically a misdemeanor bill. It had a lot of support. But the Speaker of the House didn't call it onto the floor for debate until 10:40 on a Friday night, at which time everybody had gone home, and the bill was just loaded with amendments. It was gutted, and it didn't pass. So that meant that there would be 2 more years where people were going to be getting arrested and looking at felonies and life convictions potentially for smoking pot. And there was a lot of fallout from that session, particularly anger. I think the general attitude went from sort of a frustration and a gobsmack about the stupidity of it all to just some real rage. And to put things in perspective, at that time, smoking a joint was the 4th most serious thing that you could do in Texas. It was right behind armed robbery, rape, and murder with malice. Some things that weren't so bad were assault with intent to murder, kidnapping, castration, and administering poison. That just shows you the ridiculousness of it. And it wasn't just the marijuana advocates that were pissed, the juries were pissed. And they were starting to not convict people. There was a story that came out of Laredo about a guy who had 134 pounds of marijuana in his taxi. He was arrested and brought to trial, and his attorney, for some reason, thought it would be a good idea to put him on the stand in his own defense. In the process, he ended up confessing to just about everything that he was accused of. And still, the jury acquitted him. It's called jury nullification.
Y'all hear me if I just scream? What? Can you hear me if I just scream? No. Okay. All right. Yeah, okay. So where was I? I was telling you about the system law and marijuana. Fourth place. Jury nullification. The other thing. So they exonerated this guy at 134 pounds of marijuana, and the judge was furious, and he excoriated the jury. Said, "This is the worst decision I've ever seen in my life. 20 years on the bench. You should all be ashamed of this. I'm going to personally see to it that none of you ever serve on jury again." So they said, "Okay." One day they managed to snub their nose at a stupid law and get off jury duty for the rest of their life. Now, the other thing that came after the 1971 session was Texas NORML got formed.
Hey.
As some of you may know, Keith Stropp formed NORML in Washington, D.C. in 1970 with the grant from the Playboy Foundation. And once he got it up and going, one of the first places he turned his attention to was Texas, because Texas had the worst laws in the nation. 2-to-life felony. And he hooked up with a couple of guys here. One was Steve Simon, who was from Austin. The other one was Jerry Goldstein, who's an attorney in San Antonio. And they really got it going. I met up with Steve a few months later. And I guess that was the kernel of the Texas NORML organization, such as it was. I was going to UT at the time, so I became what would now be considered in Texas NORML parlance as the student outreach coordinator. And hang on. So
when the 1973 legislature met, it was a different thing. It was going to be a different conversation. We, the people like you, were organized. We had information. We had expert witnesses. We had a small army of volunteers, and we had some outrage going for us. And TXNORML had two of the best lobbyists that money could buy, and Steve Simon and Jerry Goldstein. And the good thing about it was they were doing it for free. My job was to work up enthusiasm on campus, so I would put up booths on the West Mall, hand out literature, get people registered to vote, and things like that. And in the process, I felt that TXNORML needed its own identity. And so one day I sat around and I designed a couple of TXNORML t-shirts. And there's another one, which have all the, I don't have any of those anymore. So we were organized that time, and instead of just a mishmash of bills being offered, there were two. One was based on a thing called the Kennard Commission, which was a commission here in Texas that studied marijuana, and it called for decriminalization. The other one was put forth by the governor, Dolph Briscoe, which is your basic law and order type of bill. And there's a very acrimonious battle between the two. Ended up in the conference committee, and they compromised on 2 ounces or less was 180 days in jail. 2 to 4 ounces was 1 year and a maximum of $2,000 fine. That was 1973. That was 40 years ago, and that's what it still is. Who's right? Time for change is right. So after that, attention moved to other states. Because Texas had gone from having the worst law in the nation to having one of the best. It wasn't decriminalization, but it wasn't bad. TXNORML remained active, but it was really obvious that decriminalization wasn't going to be happening anytime soon. So we changed our focus to medical marijuana and the paraquat issue. Do y'all know what the paraquat? Does paraquat, does that ring a bell with anybody? Y'all know about it? Okay. Again, if you don't, meet up with me later on, I'll tell you. So, in the late 1970s, there was a real sense of optimism amongst marijuana reform advocates. Things looked good. President Jimmy Carter had advocated decriminalization. His drug czar, Peter Bourne, had also. Steve Stropp, the founder of NORML, was a friend of Bourne's, so...
Yeah! That's his work, right? Woo! All right. Does this work? Yeah. All right.
Mic works, so if it ends up working,
And if the microphone comes on, it's on.
All right. All right, man, I only had 2 hands. I got my notes in 2 hands and all this other stuff in the other 2 hands. So it looked really good. NORML had direct access to the White House. And I just assumed that the whole trajectory of the movement was going to continue to go up until it was all done and we could go home. But it stalled in the late 70s, and I've often wondered why. I thought I used to point to some specific events, but I think more than anything else, it was just a general change in the attitudes in the political climate. In thinking about this, I think that NORML sort of rode the tide of social change in the 70s, but that was replaced by 1980 with that tsunami, that conservative tsunami that brought Reagan into the White House. And after that, nobody was talking about marijuana, certainly not decriminalization. And as for me, my
my personal life was changing. I was getting married, graduating, starting a career. And during the 80s, marijuana and Texas NORML just sort of faded into the background for me, you know. And that's where it stayed for a long time. Now, fast forward 30 years to May of 2013. Now I've become an old man. I've got a couple of kids. One is in the Marines. One was still in high school, and my younger son and some of his buddies talked me into going to Reggae Fest. It was April 20th, or thereabouts. Yeah, sure. But about a year, almost a year today. So to get in the spirit of things, I crawl up in the attic and I pull down one of my Texas NORML T-shirts. One much just like this. And so there I am standing out in the crowd, having a very nostalgic moment, watching people doing what I was doing 40 years ago. And out of the corner of my eye, I see somebody striding across the crowd with a Texas NORML T-shirt on. Dave, can you stand up? Just like that. Yeah. Right? And I was astonished that Texas NORML was still around, because I'd really get out of it. And furthermore, I was astonished that they were still using this 40-year-old design. I mean, they'd updated it a little bit, sort of a historic, tricky font. But it's my design. And so I rushed up to this guy, and I practically accosted him, So where'd you get that T-shirt? And eyes opened up. Probably thought he was getting busted by the T-shirt police or something. And he told me that there was a Texas NORML tent over there. So that's when I went over there and I met up with Josh. And I can't remember all the people who were at the tent at the time, but I was just amazed at how organized they had become over the years, and what a great job they've been doing. About the only person, one of the people that wasn't at the tent was Cheyenne over there, because she'd gone out doing something else, So after I talked to them and kind of caught up a little bit, I wandered back out in the crowd. And Cheyenne was walking the other way, and she notices this old man in this vintage Texas NORML T-shirt walking the other way. That would be me. And she runs up to me and says, "Where did you get that T-shirt?" And so I had to explain that to her, and that's how I kind of got re-involved with Texas NORML. They had been sort of drawing me back in slowly, and at first it was just, "Hey, why don't you come to our regular monthly meeting? And then, hey, why don't you come to the Senior Alliance meeting?" And then it was, "Hey, why don't you talk at our rally on May 3rd?" So, but I'm delighted to be here. I'm frankly just so pleased with what they have done. Texas NORML is stronger than it ever was, I got to tell you. And you all ought to be happy about that. And I think, I've been watching this one degree or another for a long time. I really think the tide is coming back. There's a new attitude, the conversation is happening again, and I think you can all be very optimistic about the next few years. Something definitely is going to happen. Of course, we're in Texas. It may take a little longer than most other places, but we're going to get there. In closing, I want to thank each and every one of you for coming out here. What you're doing is important. As an official outstanding citizen myself, I want to thank all of you other outstanding citizens out there for doing what you're doing today. Because this is what outstanding citizens really do. They get up, they see something that's wrong, they come out and they do something about it. You're not sitting at home complaining about the government. You're doing something, you're trying to change something that's wrong. You guys, and I can say this because I'm an outstanding citizen. Officially, here's my official outstanding citizen badge. It looks like a marijuana leaf, I know, but it's an outstanding citizen badge. And I'm telling you, every one of you are outstanding citizens in your own right. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Texas NORML, Cheyenne, and all you other good folks that have been doing all this hard work up here. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Bill. Sorry about the sound issues. It's our first time running the sound all ourselves instead of paying the money that our members give us to run the sound from the Capitol. So we're trying to use your money wisely, and sorry if it's a little inconvenient, but we think that probably there's some better things you want us to do with your money when you give it to us. Yeah. So we have Jessica from the Lovelies right here, the lovely Jessica. She is going to bring some music to the intermission portion before we have our next speaker. And we met Jessica a couple years ago. She, do you need one of these mics? Oh, okay, sorry. We met her a couple years ago, and she's with a band called the Lovelies. They have been supportive and played for us a couple times. We love them, and she's a very dear friend also. So she's not just here to play some songs that she knows. We actually met and talked about what the concept of what we're doing here, so she's a little more dedicated to this than just a little spot. But if you want to see her playing some music, they will be at Botticelli's tonight. I want everybody to come to our after party, but they're starting a little sooner. So they're starting at 8, and we don't get started at Flamingo till 9. So if you need a place to go right after here. And then tomorrow night at the White Horse at 9, which, you know, we love that place too. So Jessica from the Lovelies, thank you. Hi.
So I'm going to play y'all a song. It was written about 40 years ago, but as we've heard from Bill, a lot of things that were true then are still true now. Ooh, can you hear the ukulele out there? I'm awful sorry about that. So this is a song written by John Vandiver. I don't know if you ever heard of him, but you should check him out if you haven't. And the song is called It's Against the Law, and that's your line. I will sing it, and then you will sing it back at me if you feel so moved. What is that crazy noise? All right, well, I'm going to sing over it. All right. We tune because we care. Only thing worse than an out-of-tune ukulele is an in-tune banjo. Hey! All kinds of sound issues today. There we go. Over 50% of the USA is leading a life of crime today, 'cause it's against the law. It's against the law. You know the law, and I know too. Smoking marijuana is something you ain't supposed to do, 'cause it's against the law. It's against the law. You ready to sing? It's against the law. It's against the law. It's against the law. It's against the law. Buddy, it's against the law. Well, it's nothing wrong with it, I can see. But if you get caught, it's a penitentiary, 'cause it's against the law. 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 Buddy, it's against the law. Well, it's hard to make a dollar, hard to make a dime, make a good boy turn to a life of crime, 'cause it's against the law. It's against the law. Here goes one more time. It's against the law. 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 But it's against the law. Let's sing it one more time. It's against the law. 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 But it's against the law. I'll be back in a little while to sing y'all some more. Thanks so much, you guys.
Sorry about that, you guys. Hopefully we'll get some monitoring of the generator. Is that what's happening? Something with the generator? Okay. I don't know much about generators. Thank you, Jessica. I apologize. We'll have it a little better sound next time. Thank you all for singing along. We have our next speaker is TXNORML's Director of Patient Outreach. He is also the creator and founder, publisher of the Austin 420, if you've ever seen this little quarterly publication. Thank you. Vincent puts a lot of effort into putting that publication out and uses his own funds and his own manpower and means to get around and bring it to different places, and it's completely free unless you want it mailed to your house. So he's putting that out for us to have information and to engage on the music scene, what's happening in cannabis, the cannabis movement nationwide. And now, after building a base of people, of fans and supporters that realize what he's dealing with and what he represents for this movement and the work that he's done in the past couple of years, he's also now founded a support and empowerment group called Patient Alliance for Cannabis Therapeutics, PACT. And he'll be speaking today about the need for alternatives for people that have medical needs. Everybody shouldn't have to go to pharmaceuticals. This should be a choice. And that includes the children the parents that are leaving for their children's medical care, and they're leaving the state of Texas because that is being allowed in other states, that a choice is even given for children that have conditions. So hopefully we can get the sound back on real quick, and Vincent will talk and not scream to all of you. Yes? You're cheering for sound, right? Like cheer for freedom, cheer for sound. There, see? There we got it. Thank you.
Hey guys, can y'all hear me out there? Yeah! Hello my brothers and sisters. Can you feel what's in the air? Can you feel the essence of your energy and the spirit of your fight? Can you feel the passion and fire of your cannabis-inspired heart? It's about molding that ball of clay, where the culmination of all our efforts can harness the energy and momentum to fight for our cause, our freedom of choice, and allow nothing to stand in our way. What is this I symbolize? What is this that I represent? I represent a voice of patient empowerment and advocacy, a voice of heart, knowledge, and compassion, representing the medical cannabis patients of Texas. The time has come to transcend ourselves beyond the restraints of fear and intimidation, beyond the barriers of idleness and frustration, beyond the silence of disease and disability. The time has come to protect seriously ill patients from arrest and imprisonment, especially when hearing the stories of other states subjecting patients to prosecution for their medicinal use. There is no greater price than the price of freedom, for I fight for my freedom upon each day I wake, not by the law of the land, but by the law of illness. This is what dictates my day. This is what calls the shots. There is no man, no law greater than the eternal confrontation of disease, what I myself and many others are having to face today. For some there is no turning back, and while our dragons may consume our bodies, know that they will never consume our spirit, our courage to seek the medicine in cannabis that is helping us. If you can relate, then you know the price of the oncoming storm, of the darkness, and of the dragon that lurks within. The sole intent of disease is to be a whisper in the ear, to remind you of your difficulty and all that you should fear, that your only purpose in life is to simply wait to die. Disease is an act of consumption with a non-discriminate nature that can affect our families, friends, co-workers, children, and even ourselves. It's a battle beyond imagination or comprehension, a sacrifice that can be detrimental to that of life, the body, mind, and soul. We have a sacred value in accepting what one cannot change, in accepting what one cannot alter, in not taking our abilities for granted. It's a true test of courage and the darkest of paths we're willing to take to overcome and conquer the obstacles that stand in our way. Fear and intimidation is an all too real experience when coming out of the cannabis closet. But nothing compares to the weight one carries by not coming out, by not saying anything, by living life in secret. With 76% of U.S. doctors in favor of medical marijuana, there are many across the country coming out. but we have many here in Texas who still live under that shadow. The times are changing, therefore we shall not sway from our efforts. We shall go to the ones who suffer, go to the ones who could not be here today, go to the ones who've been neglected, abused, and misunderstood. Go to the ones consciously unaware of their true potential. Go to the ones lost from the knowledge of nature's medicinal truth. We didn't ask to be put on this battlefield, pitting policy against patients. We didn't ask to suffer the repercussions of fear, disease, and incarceration. It's not like we can put our condition on a back shelf and act like it's not there. Remember, taking that first step is truly where the first act of empowerment begins. It's about increasing our capacity to make choices and to transform those choices into desired actions and outcomes. Empowerment is a process of awareness that leads to acceptance, knowledge, manner, and self-discipline. The greater our self-confidence, our self-discipline, the lower our fears and intimidation will be in making the change we seek. We must evolve ourselves, learn from the mistakes of others, and stay focused to the sole objective that not only fuels our purpose, but also fuels the trial and truth that we all embody. We need to encourage each other, our seniors, our veterans, our patients, our fellow brothers and sisters, our families. 2015 isn't far away, but neither is 2017. If there's an answer in cannabis for the painful muscle spasms, if there's an answer in cannabis for the stiffness and contortion I endure, if there's an answer in cannabis for the loss of sleep, for the loss of appetite, then I shall not stay silent. This is my body, and how I choose to alleviate my pains is solely up to me. Patients for whom the standard legal drugs are not safe or effective are left with two terrible choices: either continue to suffer or obtain marijuana illegally and risk suffering the consequences. The canons of truth are upon you when harsh and compassionate laws criminalize patients for using their medicine. The canons of truth are upon you when arguing that sick people should continue to suffer in order to protect children. If they want to talk about the children, then let's talk about the children. The canons of truth are upon you when a little girl named Charlotte Figge in Colorado, who suffered up to 300 seizures a week due to a severe form of intractable epilepsy, is now seizure-free due to a high CBD, low THC strain of cannabis oil, appropriately named Charlotte's Web after her. The canons of truth are upon you to the eyes of many other children jumping onto the Texas Exodus to Colorado, having no other alternative but to relocate due to the illegality of medical cannabis here in Texas. The canons of truth are upon you when the medicinal properties of cannabis can bring a little child out of an epileptic catatonic state, out of the darkness to where her parents can meet her for the first time. The canons of truth are upon you when we look into that child's eyes and see that alone is worth the sacrifice of our own lives and all that we are fighting for. I would gladly give my life 4 times over than to see a child suffer. It is necessary to reveal the truth of what one endures. It can open the eyes to those who are blind to the trials of disease and disability, what they have never gone through firsthand. As warriors caught on this battlefield, it is imperative that we gain victory over what is destructive in our lives and become an emissary for what is good in our lives. The warrior of the Spirit stands up for and defends what is right, defends the innocent, and lives for honor and justice. We honor those who protect us, who are willing to sacrifice themselves for our defense, who strive to live with integrity and honor and practice the discipline to do so. Spiritual warfare is not about rashly marching forward to conquer the world with our own agenda or about forcing our will. We need to think of the big picture For our actions of today greatly affect the outcomes of tomorrow and future generations to come. No real legalization can ever exist unless it protects the rights of all, regardless of our individual choice for how we use it. We need to keep with the knowledge that each word of what we express has its own power and place. Therefore, we must be mindful of what we express and the manner in which it's expressed in. We must have an awareness of our own strengths and weaknesses, an accurate understanding of the process of legislation, but most importantly, we must seek a higher aim than just momentary satisfaction. We cannot stand beyond the entrapment of isolation, beyond the clutches of desolation and fear, if we continue to allow the repercussions they bring on to us. It's in how we wield our inner strength, our spiritual sword, that enables us all to confront these demons and dragons so courageously and without fear. How much longer shall we suffer these injustices? How much longer shall we endure the death of our liberties? How much longer shall we withstand the wretchedness and consumption of disease? It's about facing the dragon eye to eye and conquering the ultimate chess game from within, not about turning away out of fear or denial. It's about becoming something you thought you never could be, and taking to heart that which doesn't kill us only makes us stronger. We will win by no longer allowing the mighty mountains of desperation to exist, by continuing to fight these unseen battles and setting ourselves free from the consequences of our fear, from the depravities of our silence. We will win by conquering the journey, by being that book of knowledge, by being that magician, by being that machine, and simply by making ourselves immortal. Free the leaf, and thank you, my friends.
Thank you, Vincent. Thank you for setting such a great example for everything that we're working for. There's so many people out there whose disability isn't as visible, and I know Vincent tries very hard and uses that to his advantage for all of you to see that he is someone that can be helped, that he represents many people that could be helped that you might not know. Jessica is going to bring you another song, and we have one more speaker. Please hold on. I know it's warm out there. We have some water in the coolers, and it's cooling off, right? Hang on for the after party, and enjoy some music from Jessica from the Lovelies. We still have music. Oh, wait, we got to hear the sound. Wait, we're going to get the sound for you. Cheer her on, right? You want to sing along again, right?
Hello. You got a ukulele? There it is. All right, you guys. This is a song by one of my favorite Vipers. His name is Pops Bayless. You may have heard of the Asylum Street Spankers or Shorty Long. This is a Pops Bayless song called Funny Cigarette. Oh, and you guys have a part in this as well, all right? So during the verses, you're gonna go, oh, 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 ba-da-ba. You do that? Do it with me, all right? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, 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 ba-da-ba. And then the chorus is, roll me up a funny cigarette. Roll me up a reefer. It's your safest bet. I bet you can remember that. Here it comes. I like beer and I like wine. Drinking whiskey is mighty fine. Champagne's got its merits. Well, that's a bet. The moment that I treasure, the thing that gives me pleasure is when I roll me up a funny cigarette. Ba-da-ba. Roll me up a funny cigarette. Roll me up a reefer. It's your safest bet. Well, I'll get right to my point. If you'll just roll me up a joint. Come on now, roll me up that funny cigarette. You know there's smack and then there's speed and cocaine, well that's a rich boy's need. And mushrooms got their merits, so that's a bet. But the things that make me happy, all that stuff that gets me slappy is when I roll me up that funny cigarette. Roll me up a funny cigarette. Roll me up a reefer, it's your safest bet. Well, I won't feel all tired and ratty if you just roll me up fat. Come on now, roll me up that funny cigarette. Oh, 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 now Uncle Sam don't see no need for me to smoke my sticky weed. He thinks my vibrant lifestyle's just a joke. Now he flies into his righteous rage just because I'm blowing gauge instead of snorting up his nasty coke. Roll me up a funny cigarette. Roll me up a reefer, it's your safest bet. Oh, 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 I won't give y'all no brief. You just roll me up to sleep. Come on now, roll me up that funny cigarette. Come on y'all, roll me up a funny cigarette. Roll me up a reefer, it's your safest bet. Oh, 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 oh. Thanks for singing, you guys.
Jessica is such a great friend. Thank you for coming, being out here with us. Next we have Heather Fazio, also a good friend that I've had the pleasure of working with on other things throughout the years I've lived here. She's a longtime advocate of the repeal. She's a longtime advocate of repealing marijuana prohibition in Texas. She's taught me a lot. She went with me to my first meeting in this building when I was lost and couldn't tell the difference between E2 and 2E because they make sure and have both just to confuse you. And E means the extension. When they're talking about going in the basement, they're talking about an extension. So that's the biggest thing I had to figure out in this building. When you feel confused, don't worry. It happens to everyone. And Heather sat with me in my first meeting with my representative staff. So she has walked me through this process over the past few years, and now she's dedicating her time and working professionally with the Marijuana Policy Project, and she is now the Texas Political Director for the Marijuana Policy Project as of May 1st. So welcome your Texas Director for Marijuana Policy Project.
How's the sound? Do I project well enough for everyone? All right. Yeah, I want to thank Cheyenne and Jax and the leadership of TXNORML for this opportunity and for laying the groundwork. Really, it's such a great foundation for us to build upon towards the 2015 legislative session. The professionalism that we've seen develop and the hard work put in by those leading TXNORML has put us in a great position to effect real change right here at the Texas Capitol. As long as I've been involved in politics, I have detested the prohibition of marijuana, which is why I feel so very blessed to be joining the movement full-time as the political director for MPP. Our mission is to end the failed policy of marijuana prohibition and replace it with a more sensible system in which marijuana is regulated similar to alcohol, and as a part of that, ensuring that the people who benefit from medical marijuana have safe, reliable, and legal access to it. In Texas, we'll work to change laws through public education, grassroots organizing, coalition building, and lobbying our Texas legislators. It feels great to be working with such a dedicated and focused group of activists and building a broad coalition including Democrats, Republicans, Independents, Libertarians. Some are most concerned with the cost of over-incarceration. Others who are involved are there because of the gross injustice that we're seeing all around us because of the policies that are in place, that are failing. We're dropping partisanship and coming together for a common goal, to repeal marijuana prohibition in Texas. Our plan is to activate the grassroots between now and January, when the legislative session begins right here on these grounds. Some of us will be meeting with legislators in our districts, and others will be sending emails or making phone calls. However you're involved, remember, dress professionally and speak respectfully. I have a few pointers for those of y'all who are going to be involved in legislative activism. Know what you're talking about. It's okay to not be a subject matter on every aspect of this issue, but speak from your heart and to the things that you do understand and know about. Number 2 is speak respectfully to and about legislators, police officers, and judges. I know this can be difficult, but at the end of the day, we need to bring these people of influence to our side one by one. Our passion is great and your voice is very powerful. We need to use it efficiently. Dress professionally every time you step into the Capitol. We're taking on a very serious issue and policy changes to better our society, and it's deserving of our most professional approach. The key to all of this persuasion is professionalism, and I'm more confident than ever that we will prevail sooner rather than later. I think the most impactful testimony is going to come from the mothers, doctors, patients, current and former law enforcement, and veterans. And I know we have some veterans here today. Let's hear it for them, y'all. Now, I'm no fan of the U.S. empire, but what I do know is that those who put their lives on the line abroad should not be coming home to an America that is less free and neglectful of their needs to repair the physical and psychological war wounds that they have endured abroad. The 84th legislative session begins in January, and our plan is to introduce 3 bills in both the Texas House and Senate. Number 1, medical marijuana, to free patients from the clutches of the pharmaceutical industry, who sees them with dollar signs in their eyes rather than human beings with the right to choose the medicine that helps them cope with and even cure their illnesses. That's right. I'd like to see our conservative leaders supporting our troops this way and supporting being pro-quality of life. The second bill is to make the possession of marijuana a simple civil offense instead of criminal. This will keep our friends, families, and neighbors out of jail for the possession of marijuana, a plant that is and always has been a part of our culture. Now, these 2 bills are great, and they're stepping stones to what we really want to see, which is the whole enchilada, full legalization in Texas. I'm grateful for the first 2 speakers setting the stage for me to help you visualize what the Reformation era in Texas is going to look like. A medicine available to patients who need it, healthy alternatives to pharmaceuticals, and thriving businesses delivering quality medicine to them. A flourishing agriculture industry, Texas-grown hemp products, quality textiles, efficient courts with the ability to deliver justice to victims of real crime. Let's get tough on crime by freeing up police resources to be used to serve justice to victims. And end institutionalized racism caused by these drug policies. They're tearing families apart, and it's time for us to change them. It's going to happen. One of the things that really propelled me to getting involved in this issue is the warfare that we're seeing on our streets because of the war on drugs, particularly the prohibition of marijuana, and the offensive militarization of our local police. The city of Austin just bought another armed vehicle for our peaceful community. This is the kind of policies that we're seeing as a result of the prohibition of marijuana and the war on drugs, and it's got to stop. Grassroots activism is a key, and professionalism is a necessity. Our goal for the rest of the year is to foster productive dialogue. We are confident that when the voters and legislators take an objective look at the evidence, they will arrive at the conclusion that marijuana is in fact less harmful than alcohol. Our current marijuana laws are creating more problems than they solve, and it's high time that we re-legalize marijuana in Texas.
Thank you, Heather. I look forward to working with you, with Vincent, with Bill, and with everybody out there. In this next coming session, we're ready. We want to be ready before the legislators and the senators, the representatives, before they're in this house. We want to be ready. We want to have built those relationships and done the education of ourselves, of our friends, our family, our neighbors, our coworkers, and of our legislators. Before they get really busy, build those relationships and be respectful, as Heather mentioned. There is something that all of you have to contribute, and we don't need to all do the same thing. We all need to do our part. And you all have something: time, skills, money, knowledge, experience. You have contacts that you know. I know you all bring something to the table. You bring your heart and your time, and you brought that here today, and now we just have to take it forward. This is like get ready, get set, and we gotta go though. There's no need to get ready and set if we're not gonna do something. And we're gonna do something, right? So before we have our last song, I just want to thank everybody for coming. Thank Jessica for playing the music. She's got one last song for you guys that we're going to sing along with. Thanks Shelby and Rosemary for doing the ASL interpretation for us. I'm glad that we've been able to bring that to you, and please tell everyone that we make it as available as possible as often as we can. And if you know more people that are willing to contribute in this way, that is how we do it. We are all volunteers. So please, whatever you have to contribute, let us know. Make sure and take a water with you. We've got them for you, and we're going to try to leave the Capitol cleaner than we've found it. So if you see trash, whether it's yours or not, please pick it up. We have some trash bags so that we can recycle. And we will see you all, hopefully, at Flamingo Cantina for the after party tonight. And we are there every first Wednesday. We're at Flamingo Cantina for the monthly meeting. So every first Wednesday, that means next Wednesday, we'll be back at Flamingo Cantina. I don't want to scream into it. Is somebody about to? We have outreach to patients, represented by Vincent, to veterans, represented by Dave, here behind me, and Rick, over here to my right. We represent seniors. We have 3 senior citizens that are, well, they call themselves senior citizens. They're really not that old. Where are they? But they just got back from Denver from the Cannabis Cup, but they consider themselves senior citizens. So we are doing outreach to everyone, women, parents, athletes. Everyone could benefit from these laws changing, and we represent everyone because it's normal to seek a different alternative, right? It's normal. Whatever it's an alternative to. It might be an alternative to your prescriptions that hurt you. It might be an alternative to alcohol, which was harmful to me. We represent everyone. We don't all need the same reason, right? Take your reason and push it forward and let it be a reason that helps everyone get access. Thank you very much for coming, and we hope to see you later. Jessica from the Lovely. Thanks, everybody.
Ooh, we're back. All right. So this is like Cheyenne was saying. This isn't about just one kind of reason, and I feel like it's the same thing for any kind of a right or freedom. Even if it's not something you're going to exercise, it's ours to make sure everybody can, right? So here's a little bit of hope for you. Don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing is gonna be alright. Don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing is gonna be alright. Rise up this morning, smile at the rising sun. 3 little birds by my doorstep, singing sweet songs, melodies pure and true, singing, this is my message to you.